All right, and just before we get on to our top story this afternoon, a question of the day for us here on SA Today. And what we're asking you is the hashtag Shutdown Zimbabwe a test for President Mnangagwa's government? Please send us your comments through to SA_Today_SABC. Remember to also send us your video and voice notes on our WhatsApp line 081-732-8421. We'd love to hear from you regarding the situation in Zimbabwe. And that, of course, tops our bulletin this hour. 2 people have been shot at following fuel hike protest in Zimbabwe. Residents of Epworth blockaded streets and burned tires in protest against the increased fuel prices, calling on the government to step down. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa put the fuel price up by 150% this weekend. Mnangagwa says the increases are aimed at addressing a shortfall that's been caused by the increased gasoline demands and rampant illegal trade. Diesel now sells at $1.24, while petrol will sell at $1.32. The president is currently on tour in Eastern Europe and Switzerland to strengthen bilateral and economic ties. All right, and we take this discussion further. Peter is standing by with his guest.
Palesa, thanks very much indeed. Very worrying scenes that we saw there on that little clip there of Zimbabweans reacting to President Mnangagwa's announcement of that steep fuel hike literally overnight. And they've been feeling the effects straight away because the transporters, the taxi drivers have put up their prices on their commutes already. To help us explore what this means, what action that the president has taken, I'm now joined by Dr. Nkosana Moyo, who's a politician, economist, and former Zimbabwe Minister of Industry and International Trade. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, you were also a presidential candidate in the last election.
Yes, I was.
Excuse me.
Yes, I was.
Your first thoughts about this fuel hike?
Well, I think actually we should look at this not just from the fuel perspective of the fuel hike as such. We have to go back to when this administration came into being and the Minister of Finance was appointed. What has happened leading up to this? The first thing that they did was to put up taxes, transactional tax, by 2% across the board. And now they've disguised this in terms of a fuel increase, and the president actually said in order to make fuel dealers viable. But when you analyze the numbers, all that this government is doing is raise more money and tax Zimbabweans even more to pay themselves. I say pay themselves because we have to go back to the structure of the Zimbabwean budget. More than 95% of the Zimbabwean budget goes to pay salaries. There is nothing left over for anything else. No investments. That's why the economy is collapsed. The parastatals don't get any money. Infrastructure does not get any investment. So what we were expecting, and I think what Zimbabweans were expecting, was that government would address the structure of the budget in the first place and reduce government recurrent expenditure to leave more money for investing in the economy in order to grow the economy. And clearly that is not happening. They're not even looking at it.
So some people would say, hang on, but fuel was heavily subsidized and that this hike is actually just bringing the fuel price to its normal levels.
You can say that, but the truth of the matter is, firstly, have a look at the structure of the costs of the fuel price. I do not know. I expect that your team has done some research. Do you know how much of the new price actually goes to taxes?
How much?
Virtually all of it. So if you take petrol, your numbers were quoted in US dollars. But what Zimbabweans are going to have to pay is what we call bond dollars. So diesel is going to be sold at $3.11. Of that $3.11, $2.11 are taxes, which is 68%. On the diesel side, on the petrol side rather, it will be selling, I think, at $3.31. And of that, $2.48 are taxes. That's 75%. So government is going to raise money for itself.
To pay its salaries.
Absolutely.
So the obvious reaction, I suppose, most people are not surprised that these images that we're seeing now is what was going to result. Could the government not have seen this?
You tell me, because I'm as puzzled as you are. in the sense that the Zimbabwean economy is on its knees, literally. So what you'd have expected is a government that goes to find ways of growing the economy. And also, when you grow the economy, you have to leave purchasing power in the hands of the consumer, so that there is a demand pool from the consumer, so that industry, it does the investment. At the moment, nothing like that. What we're seeing actually is a reduction of purchasing power, so that there is no demand from industry. So who is going to invest? There is no demand from industry.
And this must be inflationary as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So the finance minister, everyone was excited that we've got this capable man with international finance experience. Did he overestimate the size of the problem, or is he become part of the problem with the choices he's making?
You know what? I have not talked to Professor Ncube, therefore it would be unfair for me to speculate. But on the basis of what we see, my guess would be that he is being forced to simply raise money for government. Because I think Mthuli is way too rational to do what he's doing. That's what I would like to think. But I think he's been told, and he's got constraints, and he's been told that the only mandate he's got as of now is to raise money for government.
What can President Mnangagwa do? What should he be doing?
I've just said.
Yes.
You're coming into a crippled economy.
Yes.
You're coming into a system where government is oversized for the size of the economy.
So,
you have to cut costs.
And that's jobs, essentially.
Yes, but there are ways of doing it without causing a lot of unhappiness. I've put out into the public domain that if I were him, what I would have done is to correct size the civil service, but I would actually put the civil servants who are being made redundant, I would put them on full salaries for a year, at least a year. It sounds crazy, but it's doable and it makes sense. You know why? Because a major part of the costs are hidden costs. So the minute you put them on explicit salaries for a whole year, all the hidden costs are taken out of the system. The allowances, the travel, all of the perks they give themselves get taken out of the system immediately. The space they occupy, all of these things, I pay them for a year and tell them, you've got a whole year, I'll pay you a full salary, but clearly all the perks get stripped out and you can find something else to do. So it can be done with sensitivity. And you can raise the resources to do it that way.
So, former Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai commented once he was asked what Zimbabwe would be like under President Mnangagwa, and this is what he said.
The governance culture is just replacing one individual with another individual with the same character and same culture. So, I think it is foolhardy to think that replacing Mugabe with Emmerson Mnangagwa without the fundamental reforms that are needed to transform the institution of governance, then you're wasting your time. You just have the same perpetuation of the same culture.
So you would agree with that?
Absolutely. And during the campaign, I stressed this particular issue. President Mnangagwa was President Mugabe's right-hand man for 38 years. So there is nothing that Mugabe did that you can say the current president was not part of. So on what basis would you expect him to have a totally different approach to what was going on before? There's no basis for it. So, but where I would depart incidentally, I think we who live in countries that are still fragile in terms of their institutional framework need to understand something. Institutions are built by people. And therefore, you can't expect that you will have institutions which can override the bad behavior of leaders in a fragile country. It will not happen. So we need clarity that the key issue for us is to elect the right president who then presides and nurtures institutions to take root. So the sequencing is really, really important.
Right.
Yeah? On paper, Zimbabwe's got perfect institutions. We've got a good constitution. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. If we implemented what we've got already, we would have a good country. So
you must be concerned with the images that we started with. What is your fear of what might happen? We don't want to over-sensationalize things, and people might start to use words like, Arab Spring, #flag, this flag too, etc. But surely at some point there is a breaking point that gets reached.
You know, you say what the worst that could happen. I think the worst that could happen is happened already. Loss of life, whether it's one life or more, is bad enough. So we should not have lost a life. All the citizens are trying to do is tell their government things are not working for us. So why do you kill people who are coming to tell their government that things are not working for us? The government should be listening to the people and they're trying to see how to make the conditions of lives better for the people. What is a government for if it will not listen to the people but kill them when they protest? I don't get it.
All right, and one last question. We run out of time, but the president's talking about the reintroduction of a Zimbabwean currency within 12 months. Your thoughts on that?
Well, see, I've told the Zimbabweans that when we fix on the currency, we are missing the point. It does not matter what currency you put in place, whether it's dollars or rands that have been mentioned, or rubles or whatever. For as long as the behavior of government is not changed, you're going to end up in the same place. So the currency is not an issue.
Okay,
the behavior is the issue.
Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. Moyo, we're going to have to leave it there. But thank you very much indeed for giving us your time and your insights this day.
My pleasure.